Well, hey everybody, I am sorry to be a couple of minutes late. I had a bit of a technical snafu here. For some reason, I couldn't get Google to start the Hangout. So thanks everybody for joining me. My name is Trigby. We're going to be doing one of our crowd favorites today. We're going to be doing the social media screw-ups presentation that everybody always has a real great enjoyment of. We're going to laugh a little, we're going to learn a little, but more importantly, we're going to try and do what we can to help your business grow and succeed. So thanks everybody for joining me. Just as a quick side note, that if you are joining, and I'm going to stop right here, stop presenting, and I'm going to share a different window with you. So if you'd like to ask me questions in real time, you can see right here on the YouTube page. You can ask me any questions you like, and I would be more than willing to answer best I can for you while we get started. So thanks everybody again for joining us. We are going to get started in just 1 second. So give me just 1 second and we'll get going. All right, everybody, I'm back. Let's go ahead and get started today. So if you are interested in contacting me or talking with me after the fact, you'd like a copy of the deck, anything like that, I'd be more than happy to share. You can reach me there. There's a lovely picture of me. But feel free and reach out to me at trigby@busyweb.com. So I'd love to hear your feedback on the presentation. What do we do here at BusyWeb? We are a full-service growth organization here in the Twin Cities. We are focused primarily on using digital marketing to grow our clients' businesses through new customer acquisition strategies and lead generation strategies. So what are we going to be talking about today? First, I'm going to lay out a little bit of ground rules, how exactly we're going to be talking about this, because most importantly, some of this is going to be a little salacious, a little off-kilter, a little PC. Second, I'm going to describe Schadenfreude and explain how that sort of fits into what we're doing today. Then we're going to go through the fun stuff, the top 10 list of bad things that I've found that people have done using social media in the last year in 2018. And then finally, we'll talk about how to bounce back from a mistake. And if you make a mistake like this, how can you grow from it? So skipped ahead one too many. So first of all, let's talk about Schadenfreude. This is a German word. It means pleasure derived by someone else's misfortune. So that's primarily what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be laughing at some other people, laughing at some things that were not necessarily meant to be funny, but kind of are funny. So again, some of this is going to be non-PC, but stay with me and hopefully you'll be able to learn a little something. So first up, this is one of my personal favorites that happened in this year. The good folks at Whole Foods opened a new Asian restaurant called Yellow Fever, which is in theory is a really good thing. It is supposed to be a take on the Yellow River, which is one of the biggest rivers in Asia. However, yellow is also a negative slang for Asians. So they had a good idea insofar as that they wanted to name it after a really big body of water in Asia, but unfortunately they didn't really think it through. So as you can see here on screen, there was a major league petition that got millions and millions of followers that really screwed up the entire concept for Whole Foods, thankfully for the positive. So they were not able to continue with their Asian concept in 2018. What are some of the lessons that we could learn from there? First of all, it's think of social media sort of like a tennis match concept. You are communicating back and forth with people, and you might think something and you might have a good context of why you might be doing something, but when it gets out into the real world, understand that sharing is permanent. So again, in this particular instance, we could give Whole Foods the benefit of the doubt that the yellow fever is a really great idea because we're really jazzed about sharing the culture of Asia, but unfortunately, it didn't really get that way because the context was wrong. So when you think of something as contextual, somebody else might find it really insulting, or in this case, several million people all at once. So how do you deal with this? Make an appropriate change quickly and recognize the mistake. So this is one of the best that we've had in 2018. So second, everybody remember this. This is the original dress picture, and the question was whether or not this was blue or gold. And really it depended on how you looked at it and what different hues and what sort of platform you were on. And a whole lot went into a whole big online debate as to whether or not it was blue or gold. So there was another thing that came out it was an audio clip, and the question was what actually came through the audio clip. So it's kind of fun. It's a little silly. It doesn't really matter one way or the other. But good news, the Air Force chimed in. So whether or not it was Yanni or Laurel, which is what the audio clip was, the Air Force decided that the deafening sound of their planes dropping bombs on people in Afghanistan was more interesting to hear than whether or not you heard Yanni or Laurel. So thanks, Air Force. We can really do without your opinion on that, and especially considering that you're talking about dropping bombs in a state of war. It's not super funny. So what are some of the lessons that we learned from this is, number one, stay in your lane. If you are in a particular mindset, if you're in a B2B mindset and you're doing something that isn't particularly funny, or if you are in the armed forces, don't try and be funny because it's not. Second, if something is trending in another area, if something is important in the world around, even in the sense of popular culture, that isn't necessarily an invitation for you to join in. Leave it alone. I know it's fun and I know it's interesting to try and connect the dots, but it isn't going to work. And then finally, there's some things that aren't funny. Death is one of them. Creating death, even in the sense of war, even in the sense of patriotism, isn't going to go anywhere. So next, this is something that came out in March of this year, which is really exciting. I think is just truly hilarious. And there's been sort of this trend going around in the last couple of years to make products exclusively by gender. So you see this for men, that there are specific male products, especially as it comes to hygiene. And for women, there's a lot of things that just come out pink that's the exact same thing. And here are a couple of them. There's a Sony computer, there's Chick beer, and then there's Lady Doritos. And the good folks at Lady Doritos, what they wanted to think of is, well, a lot of women really like Doritos, and so let's make some lady flavored Doritos. As you can see there, one of their options was rose petal and lavender, and it just really didn't work out. There was a major league backlash as to whether or not it was supposed to be successful. Here's a lady gun that really wasn't helpful either. So what are the lessons that we could learn from the Doritos folks is, number one, it might be a good thought, but bad execution can still harm you. So again, getting back to that concept of the tennis match that we did before, contextually, if you have a good idea, make sure that it's fully thought out. So in this particular instance, the good folks at Doritos said, yes, we already have Doritos for ladies. They're called Doritos. So second, sometimes having a good idea in the workshop is a good thing, and not necessarily letting the the world on the whole knowing about it is also a good thing. And then finally, not everything has to be gender specific. If you've got a good bag of Doritos, great, you've got a good bag of Doritos. Third, some questions have no right answer. This was something that Snapchat put out in order to try and gain some more audience memberships and users for their product, which was they asked this game of would you rather, which is, what would you rather do? One thing that's particularly negative or another thing that's particularly negative. So in this case, one of the questions they had is, would you rather slap Rihanna or punch Chris Brown? Which neither one of them is particularly a good thing to do for either individual. But more importantly, you remember that years ago, Rihanna and Chris Brown were dating, and Chris Brown got arrested for physically abusing Rihanna. So this created a major league backlash for Snapchat. Rihanna even weighed in to prove the point that this wasn't a good idea, and she was very disappointed. It actually had a major league backlash on the good folks at Snapchat as well. So what are some of the lessons that we can learn there? Number one, again, there's a third rail of humor. If something creates violence, if it creates physical pain for some people, there's really no way for it to be funny at all. So you want to avoid it at all costs. Next, the idea that all press is good press just really isn't true in this day and age, because if you are trying to think that even if we do something that's out of the box to grab attention on the whole isn't good anymore. And third, beware of data mining. If you think that you can, which is really what they were trying to do here, is get a lot of people to try and answer a question so that they could use your data for their own purposes. So if you want to use data mining as a marketing practice, you certainly can, but if you do it, make yours a little better than this. So next, this is one of my favorites that we found for 2018. This was from the good folks at Starbucks. Earlier this year, they had a blonde roast that they were pitching, and one of the ads that they put out looked like this: introducing Starbucks Blonde Espresso. And it said, "Who says espresso has to be intense? We have for 43 years. But we're Starbucks Coffee Company, so we did the exact opposite." Now, somewhere there's an entire marketing department who thought that that was a really good idea. But the question that I would have for you is, what on earth does that mean? Does it mean that their espresso is intense or isn't? Why does the number 43, how they've been doing this for 43 years, what does that even mean? So this was something that just got worked and worked and worked that was just completely nonsensical and just went nowhere. And maybe that was the point, that it was supposed to be a blonde joke. But again, if you have to think that hard on a 4-line ad, it's just simply not very funny. So what can we learn from Starbucks? Obviously, they've had a lot of corporate change in the last year, but in this particular instance, here's a couple of important lessons. Number one, be careful what you post. It has to make sense to the majority of people that you put out. You will never get everyone to have it make sense, but if the majority of people can understand what you're trying to say, then that's okay. Second, don't be clever for your own good. What I generally recommend to people I talk to is share it with your mom. If your mom doesn't understand it, then don't do it. And third, again, you'd think this was fairly obvious, but make sure that your ad copy, makes a little sense to somebody. So, okay, this is another really great one this year. This is the singer Lorde, who had a big hit a couple of years ago called Royals. And this year in April, Lorde posted a picture to her Instagram page of a bathtub. And in the bathtub, she had captioned it, "And I will always love you," which, as you can see there, is reminiscent of Whitney Houston from The Bodyguard, a 1992 classic. The trouble is, Lorde posted that Instagram photo 6 years to the day that Whitney Houston died, by drowning in her bathtub. So it was a coincidence. It was just incredibly bad timing on Lorde's part. As she posted later when she created an apology note, she just really wanted to show how much she really enjoyed taking a bath. So what can we learn from this? Well, just don't do something silly like that. Next, Carrie Fisher passed away right about the time that the most recent Star Wars came out. So Cinnabon honored her and her iconic hairstyle by saying, "R.I.P. Carrie Fisher. You'll always have the best buns in the galaxy." Which, okay, is kind of cute, but again, there's somebody trying to get take advantage of something that's happening in the world and something that's trending. The interesting thing about this is Carrie Fisher, all her life, would talk about how much she absolutely hated that hairstyle and how she hated being defined by it. And here is a company that didn't really honor her wishes and thought that this was a really good idea because it sort of tangentially applied and, again, tried to get in on an existing trend, but was actually kind of disrespectful. So what are some of the lessons that we can learn from that? Number one, funny to you isn't funny to others. This is something that people who I work with will tell you that I'm guilty of on a regular basis. But again, if when you're out in the public, you want to be contextually as funny to as many people as possible. And in this particular instance, you want to be as honorable as possible to as many people. So second, the interesting thing about this was they had posted the same picture on social media about a year earlier. People didn't think it was funny in the first place, and especially after Carrie Fisher died. Third, change it quickly, then own up to a failure. I'll talk a little bit more about this as we get into how to come back from this, but Cinnabon actually did the right thing and pulled it down relatively quickly and apologized to Carrie Fisher's family as a result. One of my last ones today is a Super Bowl ad from last year. I'm not going to play the ad for you, but the folks at Dodge quoted Martin Luther King in an ad about selling trucks and about service and trying to get more people to realize that their trucks were built on utility. And they tied it into a Martin Luther King speech about using your God-given tools to be of service, and which is okay, I guess. However, contextually in that speech, the next several lines by Martin Luther King were all about how the evils of capitalism are ruining society. So not only did they take a world leader and a world thought leader completely out of context in order to sell some trucks, they did it completely antithetical to what his real meaning was. What are some of the lessons they learned from there? Number one, realize that the world as you know it informationally is absolutely flat. The whole of context really matters. So if you're going to use pictures and little snippets of a speech, make sure you do the whole thing. Again, as I said earlier, informationally, the world is flat. So if you're using famous quotes, make sure that there's not a completely contradictory thing coming out in the very next sentence. And finally, if you're gonna sell stuff, don't quote major world leaders who are focused on something completely different in order to do that. The funny thing is, as sort of the last retort, is Martin Luther King's kids got into the action this year as well. I didn't include it in this proposal, but I'm sorry, in this show, but there was that bad Pepsi ad that came out as well with Kendall Jenner in this past year. What Bernice King's, which was Martin Luther King's daughter, posted was, "If only Daddy would have known about the power of Pepsi." So, king-size mic drop on her part. Realize that if you're going to do something like that, there's going to be some backlash, and hopefully it'll be funny like that too. So how do you come back from something like this? How do you deal with something like this if you screw up, if you are the one who has posted something contextually that you thought was funny that nobody else did? Number one, acknowledge the blunder immediately. Say you screwed up. People like to hear that you screw up and how you're going to fix it. Next, you're going to get negative feedback. People are going to make fun of you. People are going to say negative things. That's fine. Don't censor it. Don't say it. Don't try and delete it, because typically when you delete a troll, they're going to come back majorly over the top and just try and light you up as much as they can. Third, put a real face on a genuine apology. Don't do it in the context of a grand company. Say who is the person who's making the apology. If you're the owner of the company, make sure that your name is on it. Next, be transparent on how you're fixing it. If you made a major screw up or a policy shift or something that was just simply not very funny, tell people how you're not going to do it again. Next, engage your advocates, those people who are always going to be on your side, those people who know who you are on a personal level, those people who are going to understand that you made a mistake. Ask them to come to your defense, ask them to post positive things, ask them to help mitigate the damage. And the big thing that is hard to deal with for a lot of people is they say, well, I'm just not going to do social media anymore. That's the wrong attitude to have. Don't forget about your mistakes, but learn from it. Realize that more likely than not, anybody on social media is going to want to just use this to the positive. So don't forget it, and share your experiences with other people, with other business owners, and it'll end up turning out to be a positive. And there I said, share your experience with other people and don't let it scare you off. So thank you all for joining me today. I know it's a relatively short one. Wanted to give you a couple of things to thank you for dealing with my technical issue from beginnings. Number one, we do these webinars twice a month. And if you're interested in going to some more, you can go to busyweb.com/events. And if you're interested in learning how to improve your marketing, this is the wrong thing there. But if you just go to busyweb.com/buzz, B-U-Z-Z, we'll give you a full website audit that will take you about a minute to do. You'll get it done. And it's about a 12 to 15 page thing. And it's very helpful. It'll help you figure out how do you improve your social media, how do you improve your marketing. Then finally, if you're interested in just getting started now, that'd be great. Love to hear from you. You can reach me at trigby@busyweb.com. If you'd like to learn more about BusyWeb, we'd love to have you. We'd love to learn more. The easiest thing to get involved is to reach out to us at by texting the word busy, B-I-Z-Z-Y, to 22828. And you'll be able to get started right away. Just text busy to 22828 and you'll join our email list. So thanks everybody for joining me again. Here is my contact information, and I can't thank you enough for the time, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.